So, according to Thomas Hobbes, if every single human individual simply tried to make it out on their own, simply looked out for themselves, well, their outcomes just weren't very good and their lives were ultimately cut down all too soon. So, what was needed was for humans to cooperate. And government and society is essentially human cooperation in various forms. Now, why do we bother to coordinate? Well, Jean Jacques Rousseau, another political philosopher who lived after Thomas Hobbes, likened it to a stag hunt. Now, let me explain. We have two hunters here depicted in the PowerPoint slide. Both are pretty famous hunters, and both are pretty famous for not being very good at hunting. Now, if they all go out, or I'm sorry, if they both go out on their own individual hunting expeditions, they might nab themselves something small, easy to catch, but doesn't provide very much meat or sustenance. They might both be able to hunt down a hare or a rabbit. And this is fine. It enables them to survive. But if they have families to support, if they have children who cannot hunt, and they have to share the rabbit all around, then ultimately they're not going to be very prosperous. And when it comes right down to it, hares are rather quick, pretty difficult to catch, though they are easy to overpower. They can be pretty flighty, and you expend a lot of energy trying to catch something that doesn't provide a lot of meat or sustenance. However, if the two hunters coordinate, then they can pool their resources, their strength, their weapons, in order to take down a larger target, in this case, a stag. A stag is difficult to overpower one on one. However, if they were to both try to take on the stag, they potentially have the ability to hunt the stag, kill it, and then uh, use the meat for whatever, for their own purposes in order to not only survive, but to actually thrive. And so this is a famous example that is used to answer the question, what and why is government? Ultimately, government is a solution to a coordination problem. Though left in the state of nature, we do have some considerable freedom, individual liberty. Um, we coordinate with each other, giving up just a shred of autonomy for the sake of safety, order, and prosperity. All of government is a series of these trade-offs. And so the primary question of politics and government is, what is the ideal relationship between the citizen and state? Where is the proper balance between giving up some level of individual autonomy without giving up complete control simply for the sake of security and prosperity? So, for example, most people would agree that governments can punish theft if someone steals from you. If we lived in the state of nature, nobody would be able to enforce penalties against stealing. You could steal from each other all you wanted. But should government limit how much you can own in the first place? After all, if you didn't own so much, perhaps some less fortunate individual wouldn't be tempted to steal. If you were forced to give up some of your possessions to benefit somebody who does not have as much, well, perhaps they would not have to steal to begin with. Where is that line drawn? That is where we go from governance into politics, the debate over where that line should be. Now, this coordination that I keep referencing, keep in mind that this is a very general term, okay? It can take many forms. Your textbook makes reference to elitism versus pluralism. It's pretty straightforward. Elitism is a coordination structure in which a select few have power over the masses. This elite can be chosen through a variety of different mechanisms. It can be a familial mechanism, monarchy. It can be an oligarchic mechanism where the wealthy and the powerful take control, versus pluralism, where a number of competing institutions or factions govern. That way, no one institution, faction, or group ever attains or amasses so much power that they can coerce everyone else to their will. Right? I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on that. Uh, there is basically two schools of thought on how coordination can take place on a national scale, how a nation is governed, and who governs that nation. There are three general categories. The first is constitutionalism. This is rule by law, where government is written down and has an established set of parameters, and the governing institutions have to abide by those written parameters regardless of the situation. There's authoritarianism, in which there may be some sort of written document that governs the nation, but true power is at the whim of the national leader. Totalitarianism is when government observes, infiltrates, controls every aspect of life: economics, social life, political life, every single aspect of it. You are not allowed in this system to do or say anything unless it is to the benefit of the state. Who governs the nation? Well, there is representative democracy, in which people choose others to represent their interests in a national legislature or assembly. There's oligarchy, in which wealthy or economically advantaged elites make the political decisions. And then there's autocracy, in which the powerful few, chosen in a variety of ways, could be through a theocracy, through power of the church, it can be through monarchy, it can be through even an election of elites, such as in the Soviet Union, where you had an elite few and they selected their leaders by vote, but only by vote amongst themselves.